We got him. New South Alabama head football coach Major Applewhite on Locked On Sunbelt.
You are Locked On Sunbelt, your daily podcast on the Sunbelt Conference, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
All right, welcome back to another edition of Locked On Sunbelt, your team every day. Today's episode is brought to you by FanDuel. Make every moment more. New customers, join today and you'll get $200 in bonus bets if your first bet of $5 or more wins. Visit FanDuel.com/lockedon to get started. All right, so we got Major Applewhite, the new head football coach of South Alabama. He talks about the coaching staff coming and going. His second chance at being a head coach, what the plan is offensively and defensively. So let's get right into it. He is the new head coach of the South Alabama Jaguars. He is Major Applewhite. Dave Schultz back with another edition of Locked On Sunbelt, your team every day. We've had ULM new head football coach Bryant Vincent on. We just had new JMU head football coach Bob Chesney on, and a little bit later than I thought, because you think you know a guy, but he's been very busy. We get the South Alabama new head football coach, Major Applewhite, on, the former offensive coordinator. Coach, congratulations on the new gig. It has been one domino created like 5 job openings at the D1 level. How quickly did this happen when everything went down?
Yeah, it went rather fast. Obviously Coach Saban made waves coming into college football. He's made waves going out of college football. But as soon as, Martin Luther King Day, that Monday, 15th or 16th, can't remember the actual date, but that's when it kind of transpired on that Monday. Got a call from Kane, talked to Kane, late Monday evening, about the decision he was making, and then just trying to get with the staff members and, hey, let's make sure we keep our players at the forefront of our minds. How are we going to keep our roster? We don't know what's going to happen in terms of a new head coach, a promotion from within. We don't know that answer yet. But at the end of the day, if we're all going to be here, we need these players. We got really good players, really good guys. So it went fast from that standpoint. The hiring process, the interview process was fast, which was great from the standpoint of, for the players to understand, okay, we do have a head coach. We do have a head coach that's wanting to keep a lot of this staff here. So a lot of things aren't going to change for me. Then about 5 or 6 days later, Corey Batoon gets offered a great opportunity at Missouri as defense coordinator, work with Drink. And you can't blame anybody for taking a great opportunity and bettering themselves in their careers. So that threw another little kind of jab to some kids that were already kind of staggering. That threw another little flurry of punches, but hiring Will Windham back as our defensive coordinator, again, kind of got everybody into their corners, got their wits about them, and now they're back out, and now there's a staff, and they're operating in a weight room with a strength coach, because the strength coach had left as well. So there was a lot of just little things about every, you're 19 to 20. It's hard for us to truly take ourselves back to that age, Dave, Right. But if you really take yourself back there and think about yourself at your weakest moments instead of your best moments, that's probably going to jar you. It's probably going to jar the hell out of you. If you lose your head coach, coordinator, possibly a position coach, strength coach, there's a lot of facets of your daily life that are changing. So for those guys to hang tight, the coaching staff to hang tight, it just says a lot about our players, says a lot about our coaching staff.
Who took care of the Will Windham moving expenses?
Fortunately, we saved some money on that. I'm sure Dr. Erdman, our AD, is very pleased with that. But it was very simple. You just had to pick up a sign, right, and everything was moved in. Will did all the decorations himself.
So this was always a big question, and we don't have to get specifics, but your name was out there either following last season or maybe even 2 seasons ago, because the offense has been very good, whether it was Jake Bentley or Carter Bradley, that you were people were interested in you to be a Power 5 OC. So the big question that I always had with the other people, and not that many that cover South Alabama, is Major going to go with Kane if he takes a Power 5 job, or is Major going to stay back and take the South Alabama head coaching job? Was that ever in your mind? Because I didn't see up until Kalen DeBoer was hired that Kane was going to take a DC job in this case, and I think that's a very specific case. Like if Mike Norvell takes the Alabama job, I think Kane's probably still at South Alabama. So was that ever? How did you approach this whole situation? Because you always it is what it is. You always got one eye on what you're doing and one eye on what's going on. In the coaching realm.
It's just in this business. It's like you can't predict what's going to happen. So we were going to look. When I say we, I'm talking about my wife and my family. We were going to look at any and every opportunity, hypothetical, that could present itself.
Sure.
And look at any and every positive or negative to it, and and be grateful because it's a hard business. It is a tough business. It's a hard business to stay in. It's a really hard business to move up in. And I think we would just look at it year after year and what made sense for us as a family first, what made sense professionally second. And then, if it makes sense for your family and it makes sense for you professionally right now, then it's about, all right, who are we doing this with in terms of the leadership, whether it's going to Kane to another Power 5 school, whether it's going to a Power 5 school that offered you a coordinator job, you still want to know the head coach, the athletic director, president, all those people are aligned and the way they think about their football program. So we were grateful and ready for any opportunity and would discuss any opportunity as a family. We've had those situations the last couple of years, and there's been a number of reasons, but number one has just been my family's very happy in Mobile, and I'm happy in Mobile, and the nest isn't happy if the mom isn't happy, and she's happy. And the reason the mom's happy is because her little chicks are happy, and so her 2 babies are happy, so she's happy, and since those 3 are happy, I'm happy. And it's not much more complicated than that.
Well, and we're talking with Major Applewhite, the new head coach of South Alabama. So one of the things that all these, you've done this, when you do pick up and leave, the head is spinning, right? The family is usually left behind. You're trying to recruit, you're trying to add staff members, you got to get players, and now you got to recruit the players that are already there, and you got to find a place to live, and there's a whole thing going on, and you got to do that in about a month or something along those lines. Now you don't have to do that. You're already settled in. You had to recruit some players and you had to get some new coaches, which is always going to be the case. But certainly, easier is probably less complicated would be the proper phrase when you are promoted from within,
no
for
doubt.
You personally and professionally.
Yeah, I mean, those are all the things that are exactly what you just said, Dave. All those things are taken off your plate. You don't have to focus on that. You're not having to sign up for benefits. You're not having to get a student ID number. You're not having to learn where to park now. You're not having to get temporary housing, looking for homes. So those are things that are just, like you said, they're not on your plate. So you're able to focus on the here and now, which was, okay, I am the head coach now, but the strength coach just left. All right, well, these guys are right in the meat of January workouts. This is the forefront. I'm not trying to sign up for insurance or dental. I'm focused on a strength coach.
Right.
I'm not doing some of those necessary tasks, but you're able to focus on the meat and potatoes of what you want to get to right now. So that's been a huge blessing for me. I know for Robbie Zell on the offensive staff, for Kyle Skierski on the offensive staff, for Cam Clemenson, for Trey Williams, for Will Wyndham, although it was, 2-week little hiatus, right. but his stuff stayed in the same place. So now at the same time, there were 4 guys that we brought onto the staff, 5 that we brought, 4, 5th one being Will, who left and came back, but 4 that we brought on the staff, 3 on offense and get ready to bring 1 in on defense that do have to go through that. But there's a lot of institutional knowledge here that has been around for the last 3 years. So if I'm Ephraim Reed or I'm Paul Petrino and I don't know where something is, there's a lot of people in the hallway. You're not just bumping into new people yourself. So there's people to help onboard the new coaches and familiarize them with certain things and get them into the flow of what we're doing.
All right, let's take a time out. When we come back, Major Applewhite will talk about the offensive plans for the South Alabama Jaguars, how much that'll change, if any, and what actually happened last year. We talked about that a lot. I was befuddled, and Major Applewhite does discuss it. First, let me tell you about FanDuel. Happy Super Bowl to all of those who celebrate from FanDuel, America's #1 sportsbook. If you're like me, Super Bowl Sunday is all about scoring the best seat on the couch, grabbing your football snacks, and placing some super bets. FanDuel has so many ways for you to end the season with a W or 2 or 3. Not only can you bet who will win Super Bowl 58, but FanDuel also has bets for which players will score a touchdown, how many points will be scored, and so much more. New customers, join today and you'll get $200 in bonus bets for your first bet of $5 or more. wins. Just visit FanDuel.com/lockedon to sign up. That's FanDuel.com/lockedon. Make every moment more with FanDuel, an official sportsbook partner of the NFL. Dave Schultz, Locked On Sunbelt, your team every day. Let's continue our conversation with the new head football coach of the South Alabama Jaguars, Major Applewhite. How much, if any, will the offense change, and what exactly happened to the South Alabama Jaguars last season as they were very inconsistent? All right, we're talking to Major Applewhite, new head football coach for South Alabama Jaguars. Great segue. We can talk about Rob Ezel being promoted to OC. Now, is he still going to handle the tight ends? Because you know my affinity for the tight ends. I can come in there and help. And I'll be honest, anytime you're not throwing to the tight end 3 plays in a row, I'm going to get on the headset and say, Major, don't forget the tight end. Don't forget the tight end, Major.
well, Rob's not going to forget about him because we still got really good players at that position. And we've been blessed the last 3 years to get a lot of production out of that position. And DJ Thomas really started playing. I mean, he played great ball last year, but towards the last half of the season, really turned it on. So that position is still going to be something that we're utilizing quite a bit. And I know Rob knows that position well because he's worked with it for the last 3 years. So he knows the strengths and weaknesses and where that position can be featured. But Kyle Skierski, who worked with us on the defensive side of the ball last year, by trade, he's an O-line coach, O-line tight end coach by trade. He was here as a defensive analyst last year and works hand in hand with Corey Platoon in the press box on game day. He was a guy that, broke down the opposing team's offense, kind of told you what was behind the curtain in terms of this is the way these guys are thinking. These are the plays they really like. This is how they set these plays up, and try to just give the defensive coordinator a really good picture as to who this offense is, why they do the things the way they do, who they like to do them with. So he's moved over from that defensive analyst position to tight ends. He's going to do a great job for us. Great recruiter. I can't say enough about all the guys that we've hired on our staff. I believe that we've got, number one, good character people, great character. That they're going to be able to build meaningful, deep relationships with their players. They're not very surfacey. We all say that as coaches. It doesn't care. A kid doesn't care how much I know till he knows how much I care. That's a very famous coach cliche. Right. And we can all shell it out there in interviews. But these men on this staff have great depth of character. They're relationship people. They're going to find the best in you, and they're going to demand the best in you, and they're going to help you see the best in you and know that it's there. So Kyle is no different from the rest of the staff. I'm just excited to be surrounded by really good coaches.
Does Todd, the Jet Justice, have any more eligibility? And do you need to find, the fake punt guy now? Moving on, because I think he's had 2 huge fake punt plays.
Oh, Todd's gonna stay in the mix. He's gonna stay in the mix. We're gonna franchise tag him,
right?
And keep him here. That may disappoint some other players, but we're going to go ahead and franchise him, and I'm going to get him an NIL deal. I'll get him a hamburger a month. But that's what we got to do to keep Todd. We'll do that.
All right, so let's talk about the offense and defense. Does it stay the same? Do we install something new? Do we adjust to what we had? Because obviously, you're going to a left-handed quarterback. I don't know if, most likely, I don't know how much that changes the offense. But do we stay with the basic offense, or what do we do now that Major Applewhite is in charge?
Well, the base. I mean, terminology-wise and scheme-wise, we're staying very similar. Now, there's going to be things at the end of every year. We've changed a little bit of things after the 21 year, 22, 23. There's going to be some tweaks in it. Same thing defensively. You're going to go back and you're going to look at the issues that you have. What issues did we have on offense? What issues did we have at positions? What issues did we have schematically on defense, personnel-wise? Situational issues. All of those things are the things that we're diagnosing now. And then that'll determine what you want to tweak and what you want to change in spring practice. Now, as you go through the season, you kind of jot something over to the right side of your ledger, and you kind of like, this is an issue. We're going to have to address this. And so those things have been thought of, not just at the completion of the season, but probably by about late October. You start to know these are some things that we've got to hit once the season's over with, and get them researched thoroughly before we try this little experiment in spring. We don't want to, a half-assed experiment out there. We want to, research thoroughly and think where it's really going to help us. But to answer your question directly, we're going to keep the same terminology, terms for the most part. There will be some changes. And then there'll be some tweaks to what we want to do on offense and defense. And the cool thing, I think, is that it's going to be called differently because you have 2 different coordinators. And while the players get to keep some of the same terminology and things, it's going to have a different twist on it, because guys are able to see the game differently and call it differently. So going into year 4, I think that might hopefully it's a hidden advantage in terms of, we know what they do on scheme, but this guy's calling it differently. He drives this car differently than the old guy. So, I'm hoping that's what we get a little bit of.
Well, we'll get to the new stuff here, because one might it may be you and it may be Ken Womack. You may have a slightly more athletic quarterback now, allegedly, than the previous 2. So no offense to the previous 2,
right?
But I do need to go back. So you brought up issues. I couldn't come up with a better word than befuddled. I was befuddled by South Alabama last year. I don't know why you guys didn't win 10 ball games. I know there were injuries and Carter was banged up a little bit and LaDainian Webb was banged up a little bit. And I know you lost a voice in. But, I think you may have been the only team, for all I know, that scored over 50 points 3 times. And the third time you did it with the 2 backup quarterbacks. Yeah. What were the issues? What can you share with us and me specifically? Because I was entirely confused on what happened last season, and that could point towards, how do we avoid that next season?
Well, in the losses, when you start to look at each loss kind of one by one, to me, I look at Tulane, I look at James Madison. Those type of teams are obviously really good football teams, teams that have won 10, 11, 12 games, and they're winning Cotton Bowls against USC. That's not a bad team. It's not a bad football team.
Right.
You go out and you get beat by Tulane in the first game of the season and you turn the ball over. I believe we had 4 turnovers, and I think we had something upwards of 5 procedure penalties. You played a better team and you didn't play well. Let's be honest about that. James Madison, we started off so poorly on offense. And we played against a really good football team on the road. You start looking at your games like Lafayette, you have over 500 yards of offense, but you turn the ball over 5 times. So
right.
From an offensive coach, I'm more in tune to the issues we had on offense in terms of ball security, slow starts. Those were some of our issues, being able to get the ball out of our hand in the pocket and also protect our quarterback. We had to do some things to be aggressive. To create opportunities for ourselves. And there were times where, we're getting sacked, we're taking sacks. Those are things, negative plays. So, really from an offensive standpoint, the first thing is ball security. The second thing is we need to put a heightened emphasis on getting the ball out of our hand at quarterback and protecting the passer so we can stay aggressive. We don't want to be reduced to the quarterback sneak. But those are the 2 things that just jump off. And there's a lot of other things as well. But when you start looking at, who did you lose to? How did you lose to them? There were some teams in there that were very quality opponents that we lost to. And there were also some games where we were our own worst enemy. So to me, I start with where can we stop beating ourselves? Looking at the games where we were evenly matched or more talented. Let's handle those first and be more consistent. And then we'll start talking about how we went in and beat a Power 5 team on the road, but then came back at home and lost. Those are the types of swings we can't have happen. If you go up to a Power 5 team and you play your tail off and you lose, it's understandable. But going and beating a team like that and then coming home and losing at home, that's hard to answer. So, those are the type of things that we're digging into as a team to be more consistent. What are the things that trend towards what are the leading factors that lead us towards more accountability, more consistency in our performance. And that's what we're really trying to do is not just reach peak performance, but consistent performance. And that's really kind of the definition of success is, being able to consistently perform at a high level, not just hit it every once in a while. And so we got to look at how we do everything, and I'm not trying to sound cliche about it, but how do we go to class? How do we go to the training room? How do we, put nutrition in our bodies? How do we go to sleep? How do we go to tutoring? Just the intensity, the immediacy, the urgency that we show in those areas of our lives will undoubtedly filter into the football aspect of it. And we're at that age at 18 to 22 where we're still building who we are, who our habits are, and how we're going to kind of attack these next 40, 60 years of our life. And so we got to work on it. We got to have championship habits, Dave, is what it really boils down to. Is if you create enough habits, then the habits create you. And we've got to create more championship habits, and then we'll start seeing more championship execution out on the field. And that's what was so frustrating for all of us in this building last year, Kane included. I mean, probably the most frustrated being the head coach is just, I see you guys score 50 one week, and then I see you score 17 the next, and turn the ball over 5 times, and I see us throw up a goose egg one week, and then the next week we give up half 100, so like those are the things that we got to continue to talk to our team about, get them to understand, help them understand the why it happened that way. And, that's one of the hardest things to do, is to get somebody at 18, 19, 20 years of age, to get them to believe that this 3rd and 5 is tied directly to your class attendance. It's tied into your, punctuality for tutoring, because if you do have enough pride to show up and you are on time, then you'll damn sure have enough pride to show up and cover the flats on 3rd and 4. Right. So those are just, trying to help them, bridge that gap in their mind as to what it's really going to take to make changes. It's not on a barbell. Yes, lifting weights is important, but that answer is not there. It's in your head, and it's creating good habits.
A few more minutes with the new head coach of South Alabama Jaguars, Major Applewhite. Couple things of what you mentioned. You probably don't take any solace in this, but the win over Oklahoma State actually turned their season around. They played for a Big 12 championship because everything you just said, they did. The week after they lost to you, is like, they didn't get lucky. They were, not only were they better than us, they beat us badly. And then that whole James Madison trip was, you guys were stuck in traffic. I don't even know if you got to the game an hour beforehand. And
we
right
got there
before
at 11
the game,
o'clock. That's when we landed.
Will Wyndham is now the new head coach. I don't know if you guys saw the film, but they said Will Wyndham, Kane Womack, and I'm like, that's not what Kane Womack. So I'm like, and that's the second time that happened. If you Google Will Wyndham, he's the head coach at the UCLA game as well. So
all stocky white guys look the same, Dave.
All stocky guys with beards. Yeah, that's right. All right, let's take one more time out. When we come back, we'll wrap up our conversation with new South Alabama head football coach Major Applewhite. He talks about getting a second chance to becoming a head coach and what he learned last time out. And he actually answers who's going to be the starting quarterback, at least to start, for the Jaguars in 2024. We will do that when we come back. All right, almost 1,130 subscriptions on YouTube. Really appreciate it. We're going to set a goal. It's a little bit lofty, 1,300 by April 1st. That is a good, 7 weeks still to go. And we got softball starting, and we got baseball starting. And we're starting to wind down for basketball. And it appears, we got now 6 teams that could be in the top 4. So we got a race for that, maybe even 7 if you go down the schedule, go down the standings a little bit. But thank you so much for the support. It really means a lot, and many know the situation I'm in. So the search continues for something a little bit more consistent on my end. Still loving doing this, and we're going to get into the softball and baseball as it pertains to this podcast, and try to do as well as I can all around, and not just South Alabama and the Cajuns, what I'm familiar with. So I do appreciate it. We'll try to do a little bit more with the East. I know I get a little bit of a Sunbelt West slant, if you will. So I need to do a little bit better job over there, and we can get some guests on as well, as it is a very busy time. Crossover season is upon us. So I do appreciate it. Don't forget the audio podcast of the show, wherever you get your audio podcast. Just search Locked On Sunbelt. Apple Podcasts and Spotify are the most popular, but we should be able to find it wherever you get your audio podcasts from. All right, let's wrap it up with the head coach of the South Alabama Jaguars, Major Applewhite. All right, saying this again, we'll wrap it up with South Alabama's Major Applewhite getting his second bite at the apple. He was the former head coach of the Houston Cougars. See what he learned from that. And we talk about, as you may expect it from me, who will be the starting quarterback for South Alabama in 2024. He is Major Applewhite, new head football coach for South Alabama on Locked On Sunbelt, your team every day. All right, so let's back it up a little bit. This is not your first rodeo. This is your second time head coaching, and the game has changed immensely. Not only on the field with analytics, maybe, but the NIL and the portal. What did you learn your first time as a head coach? And you're coaching at Houston. That is a college program in a pro city, and now you're back to college coaching in a college town. What was your experience there? What did you learn, and what can you bring? And know that you have to adjust because of what's changed since you were doing that for the Cougars.
Well, the NIL and the portal has totally just absolutely 180 degrees the other direction in terms of recruiting. It's a different world. I mean, our discussions were, should we take this guy? Is it worth putting him as one of our 85 for sitting out and missing a year, versus what he's going to give us next year? That's just a totally different discussion than what you're having nowadays.
Right.
And I do think some of the stuff that we've done from a portal standpoint is good, and allowing these guys to transfer. I think we certainly need to go back and look at when we're allowing them to do it, what dates, all of those things, because these dates are not going to work. They're blowing up rosters, so they've got to figure that out. I do think it's outstanding that people are getting paid for putting on a very entertaining product. And, I think it's been a sham for a long time that the actors never got paid. I mean, I can't imagine Tom Hanks not getting paid. Right. He entertained too. So I think that's just ridiculous that we've had to cross that bridge. But what have I learned? That everything from 2018 in terms of recruiting, other than the relationships that you build with young men and their families, is about out the window.
Right.
It still is about relationships. It still is about giving a young man an opportunity for great education and helping the parents understand that this environment that your child is going to be in, we're going to treat them like the way we would want someone to treat our son. There's still that element to what you're doing in recruiting, but your questions are different now. It's the coach, what is your NIL? What is your collective money? And then maybe the third question is, what is your depth chart? Whereas when I was playing 25 years ago, it's what's your depth chart? Like, I'm good on the scholarship thing. It's the same thing at the other 127 schools. What's your depth chart? I want to play. So there's different lead-ins in these recruiting conversations now. So that's different for me. I think from the first job to the second job, Dave, it's just a little bit more patience and understanding. As my daughter is now 15 years old, going back, there's a difference between an 8-year-old and a 15-year-old. And that's really helped me in these 7 years, just developing a more of a patience and just looking at players like, this is my daughter. How would you want to? She made a mistake. Now the mistake's an honest mistake. How do you want to approach this? Okay, well, then it's the old parental, like, listen, we're having this conversation now, but the second conversation will not happen like this. And just understanding those things and just trying to help kids understand that you have it within you. You come from good parents. I'm not your first parent. I'm not the first person that taught you right from wrong. You have good parents. It's in you, and they're not next to you every day. So I'm here to remind you, but it's that part of it. A little bit more patience the second go around. Being around Coach Saban in 19 and 20, he was very different than he was in 2007 when I worked for him. A lot wiser, a lot more patient. I know we want to think that Coach Saban's been the same guy forever.
No,
but he's probably grown and learned in his life as well. And
absolutely.
I saw the way he handled the whole COVID situation. I was a part of that. And, everybody has their opinions on it and what it should and shouldn't be. But, for him during a very weird, awkward time, for our country, whether it be COVID or just what was going on around our country, just saw the patience that he had with young men, because his experience, the guys haven't changed from 18 to 22. They're still insecure. They're going to a place to prove themselves and perform. Right. They're worried about what their parents think. They're worried about what their peers think at campus. They're worried about what everybody at home thinks. There's a lot of insecurity in being 18 to 22, and there's a lot of emotion. And so to watch coach for 2 years in 19 and 20, understand that about his players and understand that there's emotion in there, and I've got to wait for some of this to die down before addressing him. And I think it was great for me to watch and observe.
Yeah, because I talked about that in the 3 years that I was doing radio in Mobile. Everyone thinks that, Coach Saban would just fly off the handle at everything, and he really doesn't. Stupid mistakes, like not getting the first play off, to begin the second half or something along those lines. But drops, he doesn't, because he knows he's going to need that player the next time. Also, 15-yard penalties when you're up by 30 and it's the second or third string guy in. So those were he calmed down a whole lot. All right, a couple more questions for Major Applewhite. I alluded to it. So you may be ready to answer this question. You may not. I'm certainly going to ask you at Sunbelt Media Days. Who is the starting quarterback? Are we going with Gio Lopez? Because he seems to be the next guy in line. And like Todd the Jet Justice, is Desmond Trotter becoming a GA like by default? He's been there longer than anybody.
Well, yeah. Todd, first of all, I'll start with the quarterback. Gio's going to go out there with the ones for sure in spring practice. Okay. We're going to always play the best player, but he's by just pecking order and what he did last season and what he did with his opportunities, he produced. So he's natural in line to go out there and take first snaps. But like all the positions, I know this is coach speak, but you got to continue to produce. Sure. You got to continue to produce. A production-based business, and if you don't produce as a coach, you're gone. You don't produce as a player, you get replaced. I mean, that's just what it is. But he'll start there, and he's done a phenomenal job as well as I could ask a freshman to stay engaged in a season. He was just so engaged, and that's why he was able to go in and play well against Troy, against a great defense, and make plays.
That wasn't really fair.
No, not at all. On a Thursday night on a short week, you kidding me?
On the road.
Yeah, what are we talking about? So he did a great job of that, and then also understanding this is what we're trying to do with this red shirt. We're trying to preserve it. We might need you here. We might need you there. I mean, he was up and down in the bullpen the whole second half of the season. So to hold that and to keep your focus singular and handle the academic part of it was really cool, for lack of a better term, to witness. And just, all right, I think this guy's got the maturity to handle kind of what's thrown at him. And I've seen him, press on the gas really hard this week, and I've seen him slam on the brakes and help us in other areas, and then press hard on the gas. And it shows a certain level of maturity, because there's a lot of guys that really, really waste their freshman redshirt year. They really waste it. They find every way possible to be distracted on a college campus. They don't get better. They don't get stronger. They create bad habits. And he has done the exact opposite. So very pleased with him, proud of him, excited to watch him. And he'll get the first snaps going out there in spring, and he'll do well with them. And you mentioned Desmond's name. You better have another one ready. And that was I think I had the coolest security blanket in all of college football last year, because our guy could play. Our guy could start for a lot of schools. And Desmond, doesn't matter whether it was Southern Miss to go for a field goal at the end of the season.
That's right.
Year before last.
Yep.
He jumped in, let us down on a scoring drive against Western Kentucky in the bowl. Jumps in against Old Dominion last year when Carter Bradley goes down, takes us down on a scoring drive there. And then obviously starts the bowl game, and we win in convincing fashion. So, I mean, and Des is just one of those dudes that, coaches always say this kind of stuff. I'd let this guy date my daughter, and all this kind of stuff. And you're like, whatever. No, you wouldn't. Desmond's that guy, though. He is such a solid person, intelligent, great character, dedicated, selfless, no ego. I mean, there's a lot of guys like that, and their names are all in the portal. And for him, it was important that he started what he finished, and he finished it at the place that he started. So I love the young man, and I don't know. I know he wants to get into the front offices of NFL organizations, and it's probably not worth a dime, but you need to take him if you're trying to hire somebody. And character is important, and a guy that comes in the office every day with a smile and doesn't get any credit, but just maintains that attitude it's hard to find. And there ain't many 22-year-olds, 23-year-olds that have that about them. Yeah,
I think he had a career day. I know it was a loss, but I think he kept you in the Texas State game all game long.
Right, came in at halftime and just brought us right back in there. And he's, it's just a testament to him and his parents. Right. Coaches get a lot of credit. Hell, we see these guys when they're 19. I mean, there's 19 years of work put into that young man. Right. So his parents have just done an unbelievable job with him.
All right, let's just about wrap it up with Major Applewhite, South Alabama's new head football coach. You were a major recruit out of Baton Rouge, Catholic high, somehow an Alabama fan in LSU. I'm sure that went over well in high school. But until the NIL and portal, and you mentioned what the guys are looking about, I was always under the impression, I could be wrong, that it was usually two things outside of maybe a couple of programs and the top guys. So you can tell me about this when you were recruited. There's two things that 17 and 18-year-olds care about when they're getting recruited by college football programs, right? Playing time and girls. That's basically it. Now there's some other things going on, but I would think those are the two main things outside of, again, maybe the top guys. But so was that what it was like when you were getting recruited and you went to you went to Texas?
I played a lot. I got a good-looking girl when I went there.
Well, your quarterback, yeah.
One and two. But there you go. No, I think it's about feel fit, right? I mean, it's right. No different than going and working for a new company or joining the church. It's just, do I feel good here? Do I like the environment? Do I trust the people that I'm with? Do I feel like they have my best interest at heart? Am I just, another guy, another number? And everybody wants to be loved. You know, it's a relationship, and you don't want to be the one giving 100% and the other person not really that interested. So, you know, you want someone that wants you. You want someone that wants to invest in you and help you become the best player that you can be. You want a place that has the opportunity to play. Your parents have told you that education is important, so you nod your head and you say, yes, ma'am, yes, sir, and you go ask the coach about how's your education, but that is important. You don't realize that until you start getting out. But you know, and then just the overall locker room. That's what I tell guys is, hell, we only get 20 hours a week with you. So
Right.
I don't know what you're going to do with the other 6 days and 4 hours. You probably need to find out how cool our tutors are, our academic advisor, our strength coach, our trainer, the guys that you're rooming with and locker rooming with. I mean, those are probably the people you need to spend a lot more time with than the head coach. I mean, Coach Brown was a great coach. He was a phenomenal head coach, Hall of Fame head coach. But I didn't go in there and have coffee with him every morning. You know,
Right.
he had things to do. I had classes to go to. I mean, when I saw him in the hallway, he was cordial and it was great. But you better find out what it's like around the other 98% of the campus, because these coaches are just 20 hours a week. So it's all the other parts of the program. And that's where you really have to have studs, you know, in terms of your strength coach, your academic staff, your training room. And we've got that. You know, they call them support staff, but they really lift all the heavy weight.
All right. Let's one more question. Not many people are gonna, care about this question or answer, but I don't care. All right. What was your first paying job as a college football coach?
First paying
I
job?
could be wrong, but I think it was your first paying job.
I was a GA.
I'm going to give you 2 words. All right. And now let's get your response here. Perry Patterson.
Oh, yeah. Well, that was my first full time at Syracuse.
Right.
That was my first full time job, but I was a GA at Texas for a couple of years. I worked for Greg Robinson, who was he was defensive coordinator for the Kansas City Chiefs, and Greg came down and became defense coordinator at Texas. I worked on the offensive side of the ball, but I had to do a lot of things for his defense. So he gave me the opportunity to go up to Syracuse and be his quarterback coach. I was not the coordinator; I was his quarterback coach, and it was a very rough first year at Syracuse in 2005. It was brutal. The weather, it was difficult for a little Baton Rouge boy.
Yeah, I would think so. I mean, it gets cold. It's going to rain here over Mardi Gras because it always does. You can, predict the weather by Mardi Gras, but I'm sure. Thank goodness you guys played inside during that time. He is Major Applewhite. He is the new head coach of South Alabama. Really appreciate your time, Coach. Congratulations, best of luck, and we'll see you down the road. Thank you so much for helping out.
Thanks for having me, Dave. Awesome. Always have a good time with you. Thanks, Dave.